Bear Cruzer G2. Bear Cruzer G2. Bear Cruzer G2. Bear Cruzer G2. That's right, folks. In this video, I am going to go over extensively the Bear Cruzer G2. How you doing, folks? My name is Sean McVeigh with Sean's Outdoor Adventures, and in this video I am going to go over the Bear Cruzer G2 more extensively than anyone has ever done before on this platform. And then I'm going to go over the bow once it's out of the box. Each component, I'm going to talk about the D-loop, what's going on there, the rest, the different components, how much cam lean is there right out of the box. I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about how that is going to impact your tuning of the bow. Then I'm going to take this bow and I'm going to shoot it through paper to test the tuning right out of the box. If you were to order this online right now, take it out of the box, what can you expect? Tuning can be a very involved process, and I'm going to show you how to tune this bow, but it is too much to get into in this video. I'm going to do a separate video for that. I'm going to show you how to adjust the draw length of this bow with the modules that are on there. I'm also going to shoot this bow through the chronograph at every draw length, and I'm going to show you how the change in draw length impacts the speed of the bow. So when a bow is, let's say, advertised at 320 feet per second, well, that's typically done at 30-inch draw length. If you're a 26-inch draw length, what speed can you expect? Well, I'm going to show you. Oh my goodness. I am shocked. I cannot believe what I just discovered while doing the speed test on draw length. I never in a million years expected this. It changes everything on how I'm going to do the rest of these videos. I'm also going to show you what the change in draw weight is going to do to the speed. So again, that speed, the advertised speed, is typically rated off of 70-pound pull. What if you're going to be shooting at 50-pound pull? What if you're going to shoot at 40-pound pull? Well, I'm going to shoot through the chronograph all the way down, and you're going to see the change in speed as we decrease the draw weight of the bow. I'm also going to show you, because I have a draw board and a scale, I'm going to show you how much one complete turn of the limb bolt impacts the draw weight. They give you estimates that, could it impact the draw weight 2, 3, 4 pounds per turn, whatever. I'm going to show you an exact number for each turn all the way down. So if you're a dad, you buy this for your son, you want to set it up at 40 pounds, how many full limb bolt turns is it going to take for you to get to 40 pounds? You're going to be able to tell by the way I'm doing this. After I go through all that data, I'm going to hold this bow up next to my own flagship bow, and I'm going to talk about the difference between this, which is a bow that costs around $400, and this, which is a bow that costs around $1,800. What's the difference? I'm going to tell you. After I do that, I'm going to tell you how you can win either one. I'm going to give a bow away, either a Bear Cruzer G2, Diamond Edge SB1, or if you choose and you pick, I'm going to give you a Matthews Vertex or Matthews Traverse free. So I'm going to tell you how you win it, brand new, never shot before. I'll just let you know that I'm going to do this same thing with the Diamond Edge SB1 and the Diamond Infinite Edge Pro, all the tests. And then I'm going to compare these three bows when I'm all done, and I'm going to tell you which one's the best. Now that's going to have to be separate videos. This is going to take me forever to put together, so let's go ahead and get started. In order to do that, let's go yank this bow out of the box, see what's in the box, and go over what we have here. All right, for a sight on the Bear Cruzer G2, we have a 4-pin system. There is a light. Now there's a little piece of paper I can see in there right now, which means most likely the batteries are not able to connect with the way that is, I'm assuming. So you'd have to screw this off, take the piece of paper out, and screw it back in. I'm not going to do that just yet because I don't want to risk having this turn on and drain the batteries. I don't plan to use that right now. It is a fiber optic sight. There are 4 pins. Most people set their first pin at 20 yards, then 30, then 40, then 50. Now, that's typically if you're at or above 60-pound draw weight. If you're below that, very likely you might set the first pin at 10 or 15 yards, and most people do it in 10-yard increments. So if the first pin's 15, they'll do the next one at 25. That's what most people do. Now you do have a quiver here. The way that you attach the quiver, there are 2 pegs sticking out of the quiver. You put the quiver, the top peg in the top first, and then push it down in, and then swing the bottom down into place. That's going to keep your quiver. There's a little thing to hold the quiver. If you were to take it off your bow in a hunting situation, you could use that to hang it up. That's what that is there for. Now, for a rest, it has a very basic whisker biscuit. I'll talk more about that in the tuning process in the next video. There is a peep sight and a D-loop. One thing I want to point out to you that I noticed as I was walking over to film this is the D-loop. If you look at my D-loop right here, that this is right out of the box. I haven't done anything, but see how I just slid that bottom part of the D-loop all the way up? That means if you clip an arrow on there and then you go to pull back, that's going to cinch down and pinch the nock of the arrow. The top knot is holding in place better than the bottom knot. I would suggest to you, if you're going to buy a bow, there are a couple tools that would be helpful to have on hand. One is a pair of nock pliers, if you're going to use nocks for anything, or D-loop pliers. So a pair of D-loop pliers you put in there and stretch the D-loop, and it helps tighten the knots. Now, I wouldn't do that yet though, because the very basic arrow rest they have on here only gives you adjustment from right to left to find center shot. It doesn't give you vertical adjustment, which means to get to correct arrow flight, you're going to have to move the D-loop up or down, whichever way you need to get true flight. In order to calculate your draw length, measure your wingspan from the tips of your fingers on one hand to the tips of the fingers on the other, and divide that by 2.5. That will give you roughly what your draw length is. Now, it's going to vary a little bit depending on where and how you anchor, but that'll get you close. So then I'll talk about changing the draw length in a minute and show you how to do that. I want to point this out. This style of peep sight, as you can see, that when I draw this bow back, I'm going to draw it in that direction, but the peep sight is facing you right now. So it has a rubber tubing on there so that when you pull it back, it's going to twist the peep sight into the correct position. That's nice in that you don't have to do extra tuning with the peep sight. The difference, let me just show you the peep sight I have on my bow. Here's the peep sight I have on my bow. It doesn't have that rubber tubing, and as you can see, it's currently facing you. It's facing the direction where I'll be drawing the bow. In order for me to get it that way, I had to put my bow in a bow press and twist the string until I got it just right, and then I had to readjust everything, my knock point and everything like that. So when it comes to this style of peep sight, there's a little bit more involved to get it to, and sometimes you have to play with it. You got to twist a little bit before each shot so that when you draw it back, it's lined up properly with your eye. With this style, you don't have to do any of that. You don't have to worry about that because it's going to put itself in the correct position when you're at full draw. Couple drawbacks to this style, however, is eventually the tubing does wear out. Sometimes it dry rots. If it happens to break when if you're a hunter and you're pulling back on a deer and it breaks, it's not going to correct itself. You won't be able to make the shot. So there is some drawbacks to having this style of peep sight. I'll also say straight out of the box, there is significant cam lean. The top cam, which is what's closest to you right now, has more cam lean in it than the bottom cam. I'm going to go shoot this through paper, and we're just going to see what kind of tear we get right out of the box. I'll show you the tears that I recently made after I finished tuning my bow and got perfect, what we call bullet holes. So this tear right here was a bare shaft. There was no fletching on it, and there's just a hole in the paper. The point of the arrow and the knock end of the arrow went through the same exact spot. If your bow is not tuned properly, the arrow is going to go through on an angle, so you're going to have a tear. So here's an example of what a tear will look like when your fletching is on and you have what we call a bullet hole. You'll have a hole in the middle with 3 lines sticking out from what we call the bullet hole. Now, if your bow is not tuned, the arrow is going to go through on an angle in some way or another, and you're going to have a tear in the paper. If it was a bare shaft, you're going to see a big tear in the paper, different things like that. So again, I will go over all the tuning in another video. Another thing I noticed about the bow right out of the box is there's a little card here. The person who inspected and potentially tuned the bow wrote some things on here. They shipped this bow and it came in at 69.6 pound draw weight, and I can tell that the limb bolts are in as tight as they can go. And as for a draw length, it says on the limb here, the draw length was shipped 26 inches at 70 pounds. So they just rounded that number, obviously. So I will shoot this at 26-inch draw length, 70 pounds. Now let's go shoot through paper and see how this bow behaves right out of the box, so you know what you can expect if you buy one of these and have it shipped to your house and take it out to shoot. All right, in this situation, I'm just going to use a bare shaft. It's just going to tell me how close I am with my tuning. And this is a 350 grain arrow. Now, when I do my compound bow reviews, I use this type of arrow with no fletching on it, because the whisker biscuit will slow down an arrow that has fletch on it. And when I'm doing speed tests, I don't want that to throw off my readings. And so that's why I have this arrow. And if this bow is severely out of tune right out of the package, if I shoot it through the, shoot an arrow, it could really ruin the fletching on the arrow, and then I got to replace the fletching. So I'm going to go ahead and shoot this through paper here. Now, when I am doing this, we're at 70 pounds, 26-inch draw. I want to try to make sure that, when I shoot it through, I'm shooting it through fairly level. All right, right out of the box, we have a really perfect, good hole right here. All right, that's actually great, because I thought I was going to have to do some tuning, and that was going to take a whole sidestep. Since I don't have to do that, let's get right into the next components of this bow. I want to test the speed of this bow at all the different draw lengths. I want to show you how to change the draw lengths first. That's what this is related to. This is related to changing the draw lengths. These are modules that switch in and out. So I'll show you how to change the draw length, and then I'm going to test this bow at 70 pounds at every single draw length. Let's see what the speed is as we change the draw length. I do want to mention a little bit about the cam lean, since I'm not doing tuning in this video. Cam lean in itself is not bad. You just have to tune the bow properly with it. What I'll typically do is take all the cam lean out, which involves twisting one side of the yoke in order to straighten it out, and then find my center shot. Once I've done that, if I'm not getting a perfect tear, then you're going to make adjustments to your yoke by adding or removing twists to one or the other. So that'll go over in the tuning video. But I do want to mention, there is more cam lean in the top than in the bottom, but typically I usually get them, and it is close, but it does look like the top has a little bit more, and it's noticeable, than the bottom. However, they did get the bow to shoot correctly. If your cam lean gets to be too aggressive, then it starts to wear your strings and cables, and that's not a good thing. So a little cam lean is sometimes good, but too much can start to go the wrong way for you. Here is where the draw length is indicated. You can see the other draw lengths depicted on the cam itself. And then these screws right here is what you will loosen in order to slide the draw length cam in, or module, in one direction or the other. The module that's on there will adjust in 1-inch increments. So I'm going to set this at 30-inch draw to begin and do my testing there. And then there's another module in here that will give you the 1/2-inch increments. And then this module will give you constant draw, which means you can draw, and when you stop, it'll basically give you a little bit of a let-off feel. There won't be any valley. This is good if you have a whole group of people and everybody wants to try shooting. This particular mod, you can put it on, but typically you want to set it to a specific draw length. So this one that I'm holding, I can tell by holding it, like the windows on that side, the windows here, this is going to go on the bottom cam, or excuse me, the top cam. currently looking at the bottom cam here. It says right on the module as well that it's the 1/2 inch adjustment, and it also has top written right here, right-handed top. If it's left-handed, it would be the bottom cam, but this is a right-handed bow, so it's going to go onto the top, this particular one. But I'm not going to use the 1/2 inch right now. Now when you are loosening these screws, make sure you really push down hard and you're getting it seated in properly. It's very easy to strip something like this out, so you really want to be careful to make sure that your hex wrench is seated properly in there and it's the right size. Now, another thing that you'll want to do is get some Loctite and put it on your screws when you're putting them in at the final draw length, because bows tend to vibrate and you don't want screws vibrating loose. So now my window is here. I want to rotate it until I see 30 inches, which is right there. And then I want to make sure that I'm lined up with my holes. Anytime you are installing something on a bow, especially when there are 2 screws or more, I don't want to tighten this. I got it, to where it's making contact with the module, and then I stop. You don't want to tighten one completely and another. You want to get the other one close first. Okay, now they're both close. I can go ahead and snug that. You don't want to over tighten. If you over tighten something like this, you're going to strip the threads in your cam, and then you are going to need a whole new cam. So do not over tighten. Just get it fairly close and snug it a little bit. Now let's go ahead and do the other side. Make sure I'm in snug. If you don't have it pushed down all the way, you can risk stripping where the hex fits into the screw head itself, and again you're in big trouble. You're going to have to somehow use a grinder or something to cut the screw off. It's not a fun situation. Make sure it's seated properly, then I will loosen. Very important to do that. As I'm sitting here, I also notice in the bag there's a handle. You can turn the box that the bow comes into into a bow case. That's what that handle's for. Again, I'm going to rotate my module until I reach 30 inches. In this case, my cable yoke is slightly in the way, so you just want to be careful that you don't want to risk stripping the screw if it's going to cause you to, or stripping the threads if it's going to cause you to go in on an angle. I'm just going to kind of pull the cable out of my way a little so I can tighten this in. Alright, now we're at 30 draw. Okay, so it came in right at 30 inch draw. My scale read 70.11 pounds. I want to make a few observations here. I have it on the draw board to check the cam timing. As you can see, the rubber hosing on the peep sight came off while I was at full draw, which is, an issue. Obviously that would mess you up if you were at full draw. The cam time is slightly out, so if you look right here, the cable here should be touching the straight part of this module. On the other end, it is touching right there. So it's close, but it is out a little bit right out of the box. That will affect your shooting even more so if you're using like a broadhead. Another observation is that the cable is in contact with the suppressor here, the dampener, and so what I probably would do is loosen the 2 screws here and just rotate that a little bit out of the way. Make sure that the string is still coming in contact with it, but I would prefer to not have contact here with these. Alright, what seemed like a second to you was a couple hours for me. I had my battery was kind of getting a little bit too low. I didn't like that, so I ran out I bought new batteries for the chronograph, which took about 40 minutes, and then I double checked the cam timing and it was off. And so I just recorded a whole video on how to tune the bow. Now I'm back to this. I am ready to take a couple shots. Now I will say that these little serving pieces slide up and down so that you can move the peep sight and then slide it back to keep it from sliding. But this bottom one is coming unwound already, so just making an observation there. So that's gonna need to be replaced. If you don't know how to do that, then that means you're gonna be looking up another YouTube video and stuff like that. Let's shoot this through the chronograph. This is 70 pounds, 30-inch draw, 350 grain arrow. These are the IBO specifications. I got the bow all in time. I just shot it through the chronograph at 30-inch draw, and I got 309 feet per second for 2 of the shots, 310 for the third. Now I'm at 29-inch draw, and I'm going to shoot it through the chronograph and see what we get. 299, 300, 299. So we see roughly a 10 foot per second difference on that inch of draw length change. It is almost midnight, so I'm going to continue this tomorrow morning, and I'm going to drop inch increments on down and see how that impacts the bow speed as we go down in draw length. All right, that was a second for you. I just got 4 hours of sleep. Back at it now, and I am now at 28-inch draw length. I've changed my camera angle so that you can see what this looks like as the draw length gets shorter, and we're going to compare how these speeds drop as we go. I'm going to continue to go in 1-inch increments. 288, 287, 287. Now at 27-inch draw, 350 grain arrow. 276, 276, 275. All right, 26-inch draw. 263, 263, 263. Okay, 25-inch draw length. 251, 350 grain arrow. 250, 251. 24-inch draw length. 220, 218, 219. 22-inch draw. 208, 207, 208. 21-inch draw. 194, 196, 195. 20-inch draw. 180, 180, 180. All right, 19-inch draw length, and I just put this on the draw board, and the peak weight, the limbs are maxed out. It came in at 48 pounds. So I'm going to have to go back and do a test on every single draw length to see what the peak weight is at every single draw length. I did not know that the draw weight was going to drop as you lower the draw length. See that right? That's very awkward, obviously. Peak weight at 19-inch draw, 166 feet per second, and that's 48 pounds. 169, 168. Peak weight was 43 pounds for 18-inch draw length. 154, 154, and the cam timing is dead on, by the way. 154. Okay, at 17-inch draw length, the peak weight came in at 39 pounds. 350 grain arrow. 142, 144, 141. 16-inch draw, peak weight is 37 pounds. 129, 132, 130. 15-inch draw, 37 pounds peak weight. 122, 121, 120. This is the 14-inch draw length, and we have stabilized at a peak weight of 37 pounds. And I think it's because the module is no longer in touch with the cable here that comes into the cam. And so this gap space is what equates to consistent peak draw weight. So this is 14-inch draw length. Peak weight is 37 pounds at this draw length. 111, 112, 109. 13-inch draw length, folks. 38 pounds. 103, 101, 103. 12-inch draw length, folks. Peak weight is just under 38 pounds. 97. There is no let off. 79. Guess it depends on how hard you pull it against the cables. 87. Folks, it was about halfway through, maybe when I got into the lower 20-inch draw length range, that I had this realization of what was going on. And if you'll remember, I put this in the beginning of the video. Oh my goodness. I am shocked. I cannot believe what I just discovered while doing the speed test on draw length. I never in a million years expected this. It changes everything on how I'm going to do the rest of these videos. So the reason why I said all that, and the reason why I changed everything, is when I went into the recording of these videos, I got a 350 grain arrow, and I was going to shoot it at 70 pounds at every single draw length because that's IBO ratings. However, this bow does not maintain 70 pounds at all the draw length. That means I wasn't shooting at 5 grains per pound for every draw length. It also means for you, the viewer, if you are going to set this up for your teenager, your child, whatever, and you have the limb bolts maxed out and you set the draw length, let's say that you set it at 20 inches, if you start calculating, taking cranks out and saying, okay, if I'm losing about 2 to 3 pounds per crank, then I'm starting at 70, you're going to be way off. If you want your child shooting at 30 pounds and you're calculating off of 70, way off. So this is a game changer, folks. So I'm not able to test 5 grains per pound because I don't have all the arrows. Maybe next year I'll do this all again and I'll try to get arrows for all that. But oh my goodness, I did not expect that whatsoever. So what I'm going to do right now is go back through every single draw length, put it on the draw board, and see what is the peak weight. What is the absolute maximum amount of weight you can have at a given draw length. And then you're going to be able to calculate how to reach your intended draw weight at that draw length. So I'm going to do a test. After I do all that, I'm going to turn the limb bolt one full turn and see how much weight we lose from one full turn. One thing I'm going to show you, and I'm also going to include this in the tuning video, is a way to help you be as accurate as possible when turning the limb bolts. I would recommend having a straight edge of some type, a ruler. I mean, I'm just holding this as a knock square. You'll also often see these laying around in an archery place, but a ruler will work just as well. And then I have a silver Sharpie. I use this in a lot of tuning situations. What I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a straight line down through the limb bolt, and then I'm going to draw a second one just on the top. The reason for that is every time I turn one half full turn, I'll be able to line the line back up, but the second slash mark shows me that I haven't gone a full turn yet. This is helpful because sometimes when you're turning limb bolts, you might, something could happen, distract you, and be like, oh wait, am I a half turn? Am I a full turn? Did I do 1.5 turns? Did I do 2 turns? So things like that, this helps accuracy in doing this. The reason why that's important is if you overturn one bolt a little bit more than another, you can throw off the tiller from the top. That can throw off your cam timing. So the more precise you can be while turning a limb bolt, the better off you're going to be. One other thing to note when you're doing this type of a thing is never do more than 2 full turns on one side without equaling it out on the other. So I'll typically just do 1 full turn on one side, and then I'll go and do 1 full turn on the other. The reason why I stick to 1 is because I've got kids. One could come running in and distract me at that moment. It's like, wait, was that 1 full turn? Was I 1.5? Was I, if I always do 1 full turn and I have the second slash mark, I could always tell if I've come all the way back around. If I'm making a habit to do 2 full turns and something happens to distract me, that throws it off. And that makes you go all the way back to beginning and start the tuning process all over in certain situations. So I'm going to put the bow in the bow vise here and get a close-up and show you how I'm going to draw my lines on here. Okay, so I'm just going to take my Sharpie and this straight edge, and I'm going to draw a line right down the middle here, right across the limb bolt and this little bracket that goes around it attached to the limb pocket. So now I have one line drawn straight through, and here I'm going to draw it through the limb pocket and onto the limb bolt itself. I'm going to do that on both the top and bottom limb, and then when I come all the way around, I'm going to do my best to line those lines back up. Okay, I've got my lines drawn on my limb bolt and limb pocket as I just showed you. I want to show you another thing that's extremely important, and that is when you're putting your Allen wrench or your hex key in, you really want to make sure, absolute sure, it's seated all the way down in. If you're only part way in or on a little bit of an angle, you can strip out your limb bolt, and that is a terrible place to be. If you don't want to take the time to draw the limb bolts on, pay careful attention to the angle of your hex wrench or your Allen wrench and try to get that in the exact place when you come full turn. But here I go. I'm going to try to take my first turn out, and it is really in there. There we go. Had to bust it loose. So we've got 1 full turn and got my lines lined up beautifully. Now I'm going to do the same on the bottom. 1 full turn. That one popped free a little easier. Just take my time and really make sure those lines are perfect, and they are. So there I go. Now I'm ready to test how much weight exactly we took off. This is currently set at 30-inch draw length, and you'll notice I have a knock in here. When I put it on the draw board with the little hook in there, if I don't put a knock in there, it could squeeze it down tighter than I want it. So I always put that in as a placeholder. This is what the bow looks like at the peak 12 full turns backed out. All right, I just want to go over some data that I collected here for the Bear Cruzer G2. I'm going to have a page on my website, as I think I mentioned before, and that page is going to have this if you want to copy it and save it and look at it more, or even pause the video now. But here I have the Bear Cruzer G2, priced right around $400. Manufacturer specs are across the top here. I shot a 350 grain arrow throughout this whole testing process, and I measured the draw weight at each draw length. So in the first column here, I have the peak draw weight. I have the manufacturer, MF stands for manufacturer draw length. That's what they advertised it as. And then the actual draw length did meet what the advertised draw length was. I took 3 shots and took an average of them, and so our average speed is over on the right. So at the peak weight, at 30-inch draw, it came in at 309 feet per second. It's a little bit below the advertised 315 feet per second, but not bad. So when I dropped it to 29-inch draw, that actually made the draw weight come down a little bit. Now, as you look at this first column, this bow is maxed out. The limbs are as tight as they can be throughout this whole testing process. So as you look down the first 2 columns, as you decrease the draw length, the bow actually decreases its draw weight as well. So let's say if if you're a 24-inch draw length person and you're thinking you're going to shoot this bow at 70 pounds, that's not going to happen. The highest weight you're going to get is around 62 pounds. So I'm pointing that out because that can go into a decision-making process if you're going to buy this bow or not. Now, I will say that if, this, it did go out to 30-inch draw and it did measure 30-inch. There's other bows that I'm doing reviews on, and you'll see in the near future, that they advertise 30-inch draw, but at peak weight, they don't come in at 30-inch draw. So this bow is true to its specification there. Now I want to just look at this one other chart, is how much do you decrease draw weight with one full limb bolt turn? So here's a chart for that. Now as you go lower in draw weight, near the bottom, I did begin to see some variations and lengthening in draw length, just so you're aware of that. So if we look at the chart, you can do a maximum of 12 complete turns for the limb bolt to loosen it. So at peak weight, I was measuring 70.6 pounds. With one full turn, loosening it, it came to 66.7. Now, in the booklet that comes with the bow, it says that about 2 to 3 pounds come off per turn. And as you can see here, I'm actually at 4 pounds coming off on that. And the next time I did a full turn, I'm a little over 3 pounds that came off. So although they say 2 to 3 pounds, in some instances, you can expect more coming off. So at 3 full turns, I came in at exactly 60 pounds. That was nice, because if you want to shoot at 60 pounds, all you need to do is take 3 full turns out, and you are right there. And interestingly enough, if you look down at 6 full turns, boom, I was right at 50 pounds on the button. So if you wanted to shoot your bow at 50 pounds, 6 complete turns loosening the limb bolt will get you there. And remember, do 1 turn on one limb bolt and 1 turn on the other, and you seesaw back and forth like that. You don't just crank 5 out on one and 5 on the other. So at 12 complete turns, it came to 32.4 pounds. And it actually added, by that point, a ½ inch of draw length. So it measured 30 and a half. Now, here's something I want to point out to you. This is at the 30-inch draw length. 12 turns loosening brings me to 32.4 pounds. If you look at the top of the chart, as far as draw weight, it says that this bow goes from 5 pounds to 70 pounds. Now, the way you're going to reach 5 pounds is by lowering the draw length by changing the modules. So keep in mind, if you're a 30-inch draw length and you're expecting to shoot 25 pounds just to get started, you're not going to be able to do it. Now, that most people who have a 30-inch draw length, 32 pounds is plenty low enough to get started. So it's not an issue there. But just be aware, the way they have it advertised, 5 to 70 pounds, you're actually going to have to reduce draw length in order to get down to that 5 pounds. Let's go over to my whiteboard now and look at some of the pros and cons of this bow. All right, I'm going to give you a list of my observations and a real good summary here of my take on this bow. But before I do that, I just want to mention a few simple things that I do recommend you picking up just to have around, because it's going to help you and they're not expensive at all. First, just having a Sharpie. I like a silver Sharpie because it just stands out on the black that a lot of bows have. Get yourself one of those. I do recommend getting these little levels. It helps you set your D-loop or knock point, and they're not expensive at all. I think, like I said, you're looking at around $13 US dollars. A hex or Allen wrench set, I think I got this at a store for a few dollars. And then a D-loop pair of pliers. This may be the most expensive piece out of what I'm showing you here. I think I paid close to $20 for these. I'm going to provide links for all this type of stuff just so you can get it easily. If you buy from Amazon, it also gives me a little kickback, but more or less I'm trying to provide resources for you. Also, you could get a luggage scale for around $10 to $12, and you could check your draw weight with that. And that's really important. Like, I'm not going to be able to have people answer people who are saying, hey, my son's draw length is 23 inches and I want to set it at 43 pounds. tell me exactly how to get there. Well, that's why I accumulated all this data for you so you could base your decision off of that and get there yourself. Also, I have a video on how to make a draw board very inexpensively. If you want to do that, that really helps you check your cam timing. If you have somebody with you, you can knock an arrow pointed at a target, draw back, and have them look if one cam is hitting before the other. And if you need to do cam timing, you're going to need a bow press. And I'm going to talk about that in the pros and cons sections right now. All right, so I've listed a bunch of pros, and there are more that I could list, but this is just some of the first ones that I thought of. Very easy to adjust the draw length. It really is not hard. It's just a matter of moving 2 screws and sliding the modular around. And it's very well marked. There's a nice little window you look through. You can see what draw length you're on. Very easy. Very easy to adjust the draw weight. Had no problems at all. You saw when I was getting it to move the first time, it was just a little bit tricky to get it started. Once I did, though, it was easy to turn the limb bolts, which is nice. I've had bows where it's super hard to turn the limb bolts. This was very nice and easy. This is a complete package. All you need to do is get arrows and a release for shooting this style of bow. Really, you got everything you need here. You got a quiver, you got your sight, a rest. Some people put a stabilizer on. It's not an absolute necessity. It's a preference thing. Some people think it dampens sound and vibration. They don't really do a whole lot. It might be a little, but you might not even really feel it. A lot of times the stabilizer comes in helpful or handy if it's adding weight to help the archer hold the bow steady. But it's not an absolute necessity. This bow will get you started with the necessities. Oh my goodness, folks. I've been working on this video for days. Rendered it, had it just uploaded to YouTube, and I was looking it up online to get a link to put in the description for you, and I saw it with a stabilizer. So this is the end that I opened the box, and I looked in, and then I really shook it, and I felt like, wait, is there something in the bottom? Turns out, so I'm telling you this in case you order one and the box comes. In the other end, in the bottom, there was actually this little closed-off compartment that I wouldn't have been able to know it was there unless I felt something in the box, just barely. And so the stabilizer and sling was there all this time. So I have to tell you that the bow does come with a stabilizer and wrist sling, which I didn't know until just now. And when you're installing one of these, what I do is I hand tighten it on, and I keep the leather part here that the strap goes through a little bit off. And then I get it to where it's as close to just about as tight as it can go, and then I let it turn that last little bit. Now, one of these sides was not in the little holes. I just brought it around and I mimicked the knot they had there. It's very simple. You can do the same. The wrist sling is nice because then you don't grip the bow. You just keep a relaxed hand, and when it goes off, it's not going to fall to the ground, and that helps you keep that hand relaxed. So, folks, the Bear Cruzer G2 does have a stabilizer. It is rubberized. It doesn't have really any flex to it, so the rubber may absorb a very small amount of vibration, but you probably won't feel any different with or without it, and it doesn't really have much weight to it. So in a sense, this stabilizer isn't going to actually do a whole lot for you other than look like, oh, I've got a stabilizer. It's just a little metal rod with rubber around it. And a lot of times they'll have a flexible tip. This one doesn't even have that. So the stabilizer, you're not missing much if you don't put it on. However, the wrist sling is nice to have. Let me go back to this video as I was originally producing it and show you the rest of what I had already recorded. Incredible adjustability range. I mean, this thing can be set up, and I think I put this on here, down here. You can set this bow up for just about anybody. So you can change the draw length so far, the draw weight. It's really just a bow that has a lot of versatility. Another positive is it is an economical way to get someone into archery. So this right here, what I'm holding, you're looking at around $400. You're going to need maybe another $100 to get all the rest of the arrows, release, and if you want a stabilizer, you'll be able to get those under $100 altogether, depending on how expensive you go with those. But this is a great way. Now, I bought this. My son's going to shoot this bow. This is going to be his bow. He's just turned 7 this year, he'll probably shoot this bow till he's 17. I mean, this is a 10-year investment I'm holding right here. When he's done, as long as he doesn't do something stupid and break it, when he's done, I could turn around and set this bow up for my neighbor's wife. I mean, it's just, this is something that you can use for a very long time if you take care of it. So you almost really can't go wrong from that perspective. Hey, another major positive about this bow I forgot to mention, which should have been one of the first ones I mentioned, is out of the box, it was shooting bullet holes. No tuning was really needed to get it shooting right. That's nice. And another positive that I like, for me, is it has a double yoke system. So if you ever do need to adjust for cam lean, super easy to do that. Just add or remove a twist on one side. Number 8, another positive, yes, you can hunt with this bow. There's enough power to it. You can get the draw weight high enough to meet the legal standards. A lot of states, it's a minimum of 35 to 40 pounds, somewhere in there. It can do that. Again, you have the draw length adjustability. You can hunt with this bow. I would just recommend using fixed blade broadheads, like something like a Montec, where there's a razor blade to the tip. You just get better penetration. So something like that. It also, another positive, it held its speed efficiency. And what I mean by that is when I shot this bow at 70 pounds, 30-inch draw, 5 grain per pound arrow, that's IBO ratings. So it's a 350 grain arrow. I got 309 feet per second. When I dropped it to 65 pounds and shot a 5 grain per pound arrow, that's 325 grains, I got 308 feet per second. I mean, it was right there. There are some bows, because of the inefficiency of the setup and cams, the speed drops way off when you back out the limb bolts at all. So this bow held up from 70 to 65 pounds really nicely. Now I have a long list of cons as well. They're not necessarily cons to the point that you would not want to buy the bow, but they're observations that if I got to put them somewhere, I'd put them in a con column, but it's not the type of thing that would be a deal breaker. Let's check them out. So in the cons section, I'm going to start off with the peep serving is coming off. Just in doing the testing, look at the serving here for this peep sight. It is just unraveling itself. It's going to come off and I'm going to have to redo it. Not a big deal. Not a big deal for me, and it's really not a big deal for you, but it is, if you're going to put it on there, do it right. One thing I forgot to mention before, and I'm going to recommend this right now, because these are designed to be able to be moved the way they have this tied on, so you can like move the peep sight, to fit whoever. And but what I would suggest is this: when you find the peep sight, let's say you're setting this up for your child or yourself, or your spouse, whatever. So the person you're setting it up for, you find the perfect spot for the peep sight. Take your Sharpie and mark right at the top of the peep sight really well, at the top and the bottom, and freshen it up periodically. If it slides, you're going to be able to see that it's no longer in line with your little hash marks that you drew on there, and you'll know that you need to readjust it. Sometimes things like that can happen. You're shooting and you're like, why am I suddenly shooting high or low? Well, it could be as simple as your peep sight slid and you didn't realize it, so mark your peep sight. Also, I'll mention you can tie it in using waxed dental floss. So it's easy to get, very strong, and it's just a matter of tying it back in. Another drawback is I could not use the Bowmaster bow press. If you can press the bow, there's so much you can do on your own. You don't need somebody. The cam timing did go out just a little bit here and there. It was a matter of a simple half twist to one of the cables and it put it right back in. And I forgot to mention this, I wrote it on afterwards, but the cam timing did stay in really well in general. Like I was changing the draw weight, I was changing the draw length, and so often the cam timing was right on in so many ways. And then just at the end when I was creeping back up in draw length, it came out a little bit. It was just a half of a turn to one cable and went right back in, and it stayed in even when I was changing the draw weight then, like by backing out the limb bolts. Another observation, you're probably reading my cons, but I forgot to mention this. Another observation that I did make is when I was lowering the draw weight, it did increase the draw length a little bit in those longer draw lengths. I have it written down. Let me just check it. At 8 turns of the limb bolt out, I was at 44 pounds, and it increased the draw length by 1/8 of an inch. When I turned it another full turn, it actually went out to 30 3/8 inch draw length and 40 pounds. When I turned it, the 10th time I turned it out, it went to 30 1/2 inch draw length, and the weight was 37.9 pounds. So if you're backing it out around 8, 9, 10 turns to get to that weight, it can impact your draw length. And then you could actually, like, if it moves it 1/2 of an inch, you'll actually switch the mod to the 1/2 inch mod and go to the 1/2 inch down, and that's going to put you back at 30. So you can still shoot at 30. It's just you're going to have a little bit more adjustments you're going to need to make to compensate for the change. So what's happening when you're decreasing the draw weight is the limb is going like this. As the limb goes down, it's moving the string farther back, and that's how you end up with a little bit longer draw length. All right, let's go over the rest. The rubber tubing slipped off the peep sight. I did push it back on, and it has remained on. It is a concern, though. If you're in a hunting situation and it's like the moment of truth, the buck of a lifetime, if that slips off, you're going to be an upset person because it could cost you. Now, this is just a minor thing, and I noted observations. At the longer draw lengths, the little screw that you have to turn to adjust the draw length is right behind where the yoke string is. So you actually have to pull the yoke string out of the way in order to tighten and loosen that. Again, not a big deal. It's just an observation. I had to put it somewhere. I just threw it in the column just because it's not a positive thing. It's not really a big deal. I'm just making an observation. Another drawback is you actually have to switch the mods out to go in 1/2 inch increments. So this one here is on, like, let's say 30 inches. The other mod's going to give me 29, 28, 29 and a half, 28 and a half, 27 and a half. Now, if you're using this for a child like I'm going to be, every time as he's growing and I got to change the draw length, I got to actually take the mod off, put the other mod on to get the correct draw length. It would be nice if they maybe came up with a design where they could do it in 1/2 inch increments right on here. It's not a big deal. It's just a little extra work for you to have to take the screws all the way out, take the part off, take the next part on, blah, blah, blah. Another drawback is that the peak weight drops as the draw length decreases. So as I was going down in draw length and the limbs were all maxed out, the draw weight was just dropping, and I had no idea that was going to happen. That was a huge surprise for me because it's the first time I've ever done testing like this. So that's going to actually play into my last one. I'll just save it for that. Now, although the cam timing did change did stay in well in most situations, it did change a little bit, so I had to note that. It was just a simple fix, though, for me because I got a bow press. Now, I just noted, it's just a note, it's going to help you. If I hadn't drawn these little slash marks on here for doing the draw weight, when I tightened it all the way back in, I got to where the lines matched up, but I actually could have kept turning it a little bit. It looked all the way in, but the point is I could have gone a little bit more. And so I'm just noting that so that you're aware of it. Put it in the peak weight and then draw those lines on there, because even though it looks all the way in, there can be some fluctuation there. Now I'm going to go to my last one, misleading advertising, and this is going to be related to the peak draw weight drops as the draw length decreases. So this bow is advertised 315 feet per second. I maxed out at like 309. That's close enough. I got no problem with that. But here's where it is. It says that the draw weight can be adjusted from 5 pounds to 70 pounds. Now, when and it says right on here, and I'm glad they put the sticker on there, it says do not exceed 12 turns. So you can't back it out more than 12 turns. When I backed it out at 30-inch draw, 12 turns, the lowest draw weight I could get was, I believe it was 32.4 pounds. So that could play into a factor. I can't go to 5 pounds at 30-inch draw. I can only go to 32.4. In order to get to 5 pounds, you've got to drop to one of the lower draw weights on here. I didn't take the time to check which one it is. And that's another drawback that's related to this, is why go all the way down to 12 inches just so that you can say you can. But you saw me when I was drawing it back. It's like you're moving this far. There is no let off. No one's going to have that short of a draw length who can actually pull a bow back. An infant coming out of the womb is probably going to have, you know, like a 12-inch draw length. An infant's not going to pull a bow back, especially not a bow that weighs this much. You're 3 years old is about the earliest someone's going to pick up a bow. Probably more like 4. I started when I was 4. I can't imagine someone really. I mean, somebody could start at 3, but your average person, the earliest they're going to be starting is around the age of 4. They're going to be able to pull, you know, probably 15 pounds right out of the gate. And their draw length is going to be more than 12 inches. It's just not functional. So I would say just do away with some of the silliness there and get rid of those lower ones. It's not needed, it's not functional, it's not doing anything. All right. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you the difference between this bow and my $1,800 setup that is right here. But before I do that, I'm going to give you the scripture verse for this episode, which also contributes to how you can win a brand new Matthews with my giveaway. And I'll explain all that in just a second. Okay, the scripture verse for this episode is Colossians 3:17. That's Colossians 3:17. Why is that significant? Is because I'm giving away a brand new Matthews Traverse or Vertex, the winner picks. Or you could even, if you'd rather have a Bear Cruzer G2, you can pick that. Only one though. And I will ship it to you. And so the way that it works is every video that I upload, starting from June of 2019 all the way through till the end of this November 2019, I'm going to mention a scripture verse in every single episode. Keep track of them all, because on December 1st, I'm going to do a giveaway where I'm going to call somebody live and say, hey, what was the scripture verse from, let's say I pick this video, the Bear Cruzer G2 review. And you'll say, hey, that was Colossians 3:17, and this is what it was about. You know, just give me a quick summary of what that passage was. And boom, you win the bow. It's that simple. Folks, I just woke up. I've been working on this video for several days now. And I'm going to make a separate video on this comparison because this video is already a beast. It's so long. Just stay tuned for the next video for the comparison. Let's finish this one up. I also have a ton of data that I collected as far as speeds and all that. If you want to get the data, you can just copy it off my website. I'm going to put a link to a page on my website that's going to detail out all of the numbers and stuff like that. It's just easier for you to copy it and stuff if you want. So check out that link along with the others in the description section. Folks, I want to thank you for tuning in to this long video on the Bear Cruzer G2 review. Would I buy it? Obviously I would. I have total confidence in giving this to my son to shoot for the next 10 years. I did list pros and cons, but they're not cons that would prevent me from saying, son, have a good time. I'm excited for him to have this bow. So anyway, as I was saying, thank you for tuning in. I also recorded a tuning video on how to tune this bow to help you out. If you don't have access to a bow press, it's not hard. If you could become friends with a local bow shop, it'll take them a minute to make some of the adjustments to adjust for cam timing. So also, please make sure you put it on your calendar for December 1st to come join me on my live giveaway of the bow of your choice. I hope you win. I'm also giving away a tree stand. I'll talk about that in another episode since this one's gotten so long. But I want to thank you again, like I said, for tuning in. Please subscribe, all that stuff. Hit the bell icon so you get notified so you don't miss an episode. And that way you won't miss one scripture verse. Hopefully you'll get the win, the bow. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. Until next time, take care, God bless, and stay tuned for the tuning video, as well as the Diamond SB1 and Diamond Infinite Edge videos. I keep blabbing on. Goodbye.